know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
For the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green. How are you out there in podcast land? First off, thank you for tuning in. As always, I appreciate your time and your ears. But, giving me a moment of your, well, probably longer than a moment, but giving me time out of your day to hear me go on and on and on about various things, mostly within wrestling, and within that, mostly a review of our weekly friends, Wow Women of Wrestling. And as such, we've got another one. And what an episode it was. Not bad, but, it's certainly worth talking about for little things that took place within and during the course of it. Of course, we'll get to all of that and explain as we go. In this condensed version of it, because I want to get past this particular episode. In this condensed version, we will skip the interludes and things of that nature. We'll go right into the episode in and of itself. So as it is, let us go directly into the review. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, the opening slate for this episode that is in review is WoW episode 434, season 4, episode 34. The title, Prove Your Worth. The air date, May the 30th, the chronological number 190, and it starts off with a recap of the Triple Threat Tag Team Championship match where Ashley Blaze and Tara Strike won the Tag Team Championships. This, of course, rolls into a backstage segment where the pair are super duper excited. they are just over the moon with themselves. And bravo. For a couple of reasons. I had long said that, I really wish I understood what the value of what the championships were. Now, granted, it's not like they turned around and said, all right, now that we got these belts, we're going to be millionaires. It's not like they did that. But I would be hard-pressed to look at that scene at any given point if you knew nothing about wrestling and said that those belts did not mean something to them. Now, you might not be able to define what that something is right off, but at least they painted the picture that the championship belts were important. Opposed to having segments where you got somebody who won the tag team championships and they still like, and I still didn't have what Miami Sweet Heat had. So I hope, and my fingers are crossed, I hope that they can build on the mystique isn't the right word, but the prestige, we'll call it that. If they started getting it with some level of prestige, it would be nice if they can kind of mount that further. It's not that the previous champions did not find value in the titles, but it felt more like a compliment to Lana Star than it necessarily being like, we want these belts. Like, it's more like we want to win them for Lana. And that's kind of, we'll reap the rewards of having done so. You know what I mean? It just felt like more of a pairing than Miami Sweet Heat wanting to get the belts for them because we're the best. We want to prove we're the best, or whatever reason is that they have. But that's neither here nor there. The point being here is that this opening segment, they put a lot of energy into them being happy. And if you listen to the previous podcast, my pitch was the opposite. I love this. Certainly not saying that is wrong or that what I was suggesting was better. Not giving that at all. But my pitch was start off with best for business because they was talking some mad shit going into this. So I want to hear just on the character level how do they justify that they've cut the dead weight and still lost? And where do they go from here? Their whole story was kind of predicated on, they've been holding us back and they're losers and this, that, and the other. And then they went out and lost. So I'm sure they have a brighter future ahead. And I still maintain that it probably was the better thing for them individually to form Best for Business opposed to being Dojo Defender Karakai and what was the other team? Spring Break 24/7 Sandy Shore. They just, they just didn't have a lot of motivation, in my opinion, going into that whole thing. But that's, again, neither here nor there. As this is going on, this segment is done with Sibley Scoles, who's excited along with him, and she provides a nice little compliment. Because even though she's essentially there to be an unbiased interviewer, you can have the good old-fashioned celebratory moment with the baby faces, their overwhelming excitement. In this case, looks like it was contagious. I mean, they put the belt around Sibley, you know what I mean? So this little recap, I thought this was quite nice for them. I don't know if I've ever expected while to illustrate or celebrate or whatever the case may be with their titles to that degree. And they, like I said, they was over the moon. Next segment, we get opening shots of a clearly coached crowd chanting "Women of Wrestling." I was like, there's no way that they came up with that on its own. It is not a smooth chant. It's not like ECW, TNA, or, ROH, Women of Wrestling. I was like, if they came up with that on their own, I would be quite surprised. I'd be beyond surprised. I'm pretty sure somebody stood out in the crowd and said, all right, guys, 1, 2, 3, here we go. But this transitions into them talking about the matches in the lineup of the show, and that includes the main event and the 6-person tag match. The next segment, we go back to Sibley Scoles. She interviews Full Throttle. Full Throttle being, of course, Veronica Varoom, Brooklyn Love, Catalina Speed. Was it Catalina? Whatever. I don't know. It's the Catalina and Katrina that those two get kind of twisted up with me. But this heel segment, heel interview segment, I mean, Varoom is a good talker, but there's only so much talking that she can do that's going to ever elevate this team. And it seemed as if somebody lost their pacing. For a moment there, look, Brooklyn Love was talking over Varoom, and then it got kind of settled back down. And I guess out of the blue, Varoom is just back into the ring. I mean, I don't even know what to make of that. The last time that we saw her being interviewed, it was, okay, are you getting back in the ring? Nah, I'm not getting back in the ring yet, but here's here's what I got that's better. And then, without rhyme, reason, or explanation, now she's just in a match. Returned. We don't know if it's from injury or, personal decision, whatever reasons that it may have, it just kind of happened. But this is essentially to push the idea, this segment, that they deserve a title shot. I'm like, okay, here we go with this nonsense again. What is it with these people that lose constantly? Like, I deserve a title shot. Why? For what reason would they ever be able to justify needing a title shot at anything? I'm not sure if the team of Full Throttle has won a single match yet. But yet they're complaining about deserving a match with the champions for the championship. Boy. It seems like this is just an ongoing issue in WoW, in that there's always somebody that's complaining for a title shot. Mostly the heels. And then they get the title shot regardless of whether they won anything or not. It didn't happen here, but it wouldn't have surprised me. As I said, it's presented as they deserve. They did not get, but they deserve a title shot. It's also brought up that, this is Vroom's return to the ring as Full Throttle's missing piece. I'm not even sure that was that big of a deal to the overall scheme of things. Like, oh man, Vroom's return to the ring tonight. I got to tell somebody so they can turn the channel on and watch it. It just felt like, oh, okay, she's there. And it still comes across to me. I've already run the joke once. I can't slide it in here again. But one of these things isn't like the other. Okay, Brooklyn Love is mismatched here, and it does come off like she's the manager. The other two are the people that she's managing, when theoretically Vroom is the one that's in charge there. It is such a weird pairing. Like, why on earth would tennis player Brooklyn Love join a team called Full Throttle? Veronica Vroom and Catalina Speed. At least change the name or something. I don't know. So, we get out of that after having the backstage segment. And we go into the match itself. This is Full Throttle versus Monsters in Metal. The first thing you see is the team of Full Throttle's Brooklyn Love saying game, set, match. That's what you get with the opening video. I'm like, what? Why? What does that have to do with Full Throttle? Doesn't really seem to relate. But that feels like the ongoing narrative of that team. David has what I would assume to be ADR. He's some additional dialogue recordings that was put in there, because it didn't sound like it was the same audio that had been taking place prior to. And his ADR pitches to the backstage with Sibley. So we end the match, but there's a Sibley Scoles segment that takes place within that at the start. Of course, this is Fury and it's Daisy Lane, while Chainsaw just standing in the background because, Chainsaw don't talk. And they have their promo. And it's basically there for them to say, well, if they can beat us in this match, then they'll earn a title shot. They kind of, they went around the bend. I'm not going to say that. Saying they went around the bend makes it sound like they said things that were unnecessary. Everything that, from what I recall and what I have in my notes, it was necessary stuff, but it all led towards beat us now, you'll get a title shot later. I've already spoiled where that's going. So anyhow, our baby faces come out. I still say Brooklyn Love sticks out like a sore thumb in this. During the match, the commentators talk about the match for the WoW title. That it was made on the WoW podcast. I guess good for them. Lane jumped in the place of Speed's shoulder block before she could actually get hit. This match wasn't all that great. There's some fine people in it, don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't as smooth a match as I've seen them have. For all I can say about me not wanting to see Monsters and Metals in top tier all the time. They actually did have at least a few matches that were like, all right, well, that comes out pretty well, pretty smooth. McLean brings up Susie Spirit was in the audience from Glow. I was like, oh, all right. It was a nice reference point, assuming that Susie Spirit, who wrestled for all of 2 years, I guess, 30 years ago or 40 years ago, it has people that remember it. The heels take over on Daisy Lane at some point in the match. Lane is pretty much just beaten up. Then they did something here that I didn't understand. They're just yanking her hair around. I assumed that Vroom and Speed were trying to use it as a steering wheel, maybe. But it was just ridiculous. I was like, what is this supposed to accomplish? They had it in the middle of the ring, just yanking her head around by her pigtails. Vroom hits a nice cannonball in the corner. I certainly can say that. McLean tries to relate Love's tennis background into wrestling. I was like, okay, you're stretching now. Is that footwork? There's a point in the match where the enziguri that Daisy Lane attempted to do, it was basically like she told, hey, hold my foot. Because that kick was like nowhere near Vroom when it happened. So she just put her foot up so Veronica Vroom could hold it, and then she could give her enziguri on the back of the head. It was just kind of those moments like that. And before I go further, let me explain. I know I wrote down Lane jumps up in the way of the shoulder block. But let me explain what the shoulder block that takes place in the corner. She was in the turnbuckle. And Vroom, I think it was Vroom, she was getting ready to drive her shoulder. Was it Speed? Sorry. Drive her shoulder into the stomach of Daisy Lane. This is one of those points where, the camera can be your friend or the camera can work against you. In this case, the camera worked against her because it wasn't able to be hidden. They could have tried to edit it down. They could have tried to clip it or something like that, or maybe take a different shot so it's not as obvious. But she essentially just sat herself up on the second rope as if she got hit 2 or 3 seconds before she got hit. That's what I mean when I say she jumped up in the place of the shoulder block before she actually got hit. And you can go back and you can find it. And it looks, I know that they're trying and they're working hard and they probably have wrestled 3 and 4 times a night. But that's because that's what their boss decided for them to do, and that's what you signed up for. So I don't know what else I can say. It just, moments like that kind of took me out of the match, and I had very little reason to believe that Full Throttle was just suddenly going to win when they had been on this wonderful losing streak so far. So anyhow, moving on towards the end of this thing. At some point, you know what we get? Because the matches with Monsters and Metal seem to have developed into basically the same thing. Fury is going to do something. She's going to tag out to Daisy Lane, and then Chainsaw is going to clean it up. And because at one point in this match, Chainsaw literally tagged in and then tagged right back out. Like in there for all of maybe 5 seconds and then got right back out on the apron so I can wait my turn to do the cleanup. And that's pretty much what happened. She gets the tag, and Chainsaw comes in to do her monstrous stuff. The one thing that you can't stop is me. She's like the Juggernaut. And she's good in her role. Certainly cannot, falter in that, but I think my one beef in this is that all 3 got into the ring. Chainsaw's cutting them all down. Then she gets Vroom down after a fall away slam. I don't want to call it Samoan drop, but that's a fall away slam. Love breaks it up. And like an idiot, as soon as she breaks it up, she just turns and starts yelling at the audience. Like, why would you do that? And then she gets caught in a choke slam, or gets caught with a goozle. She's getting ready for a choke slam. Speed comes in. She also gets caught with the goozle. Love breaks the grip of hers and backs off into the corner, and then just sits there and watches her partner get choke slam for some reason. Like, what? Why? I know she's got to wait for the spot for her to come in and do something with Fury. I mean, I think it's just the overall timing of this match. It's like there was 3 and 4 different times here that it just felt like it's, all right, I got to wait for my time. Okay, I'm supposed to run in and do this. It just felt like a completely memorized thing. Whether it was or not is irrelevant. It felt that way. Because I know what's supposed to come next and I know what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to stand here and wait till either it's open for me to do it or stand here and take the punches I'm supposed to take. And that's what I got from this because, again, she broke that. It wasn't like she ran in and said, punch me, so I have something to kind of stagger off for while you get rid of Speed. Instead, she chokeslam Speed. Love waits. Then she comes out and she kicks Chainsaw's hand away, assumably because she was getting ready to try to choke something. I don't know. As Chainsaw staggers off, then you get Fury. She comes in. Fury tries to give her backhand, and then for 2 or 3 seconds, she just stands there wide open, waiting to get kicked in the guts. After she takes the kick, Love tries to throw out. Fury reverses it. She throws her out instead. She goes onto the apron, drapes Fury's throat across the top rope because she didn't go all the way down. But Fury stays in the ring, and that's important. Daisy Lane comes across and she charges with a drop kick, and she sends Brooklyn Love to the floor, the ground, or whatever. Varun catches Chainsaw in a tornado DDT. And, of course, Chainsaw kicks out of that. I think I'd have been highly disappointed if she had lost to a tornado DDT. Unless it was on top of a table somewhere. Once she got hit in the back of the head with a full-on wrench and kept going, like, well, there shouldn't be a move in the world that should stop her. So after she kicks out of this, Veronica Varun decides that it's a good time and a great place to complain to the referee about not getting a 3 count while all 3 of my opponents are in the ring and I'm by myself. So she gets up in the ref's face, as she can, in her peripheral vision, I'm sure she can see at least Chainsaw and Fury. She turns around, walks into the backhand from Fury, and then Chainsaw hooks her up for their finish. And I'm not sure if I like this. It just seems like such a convoluted thing. I know they want to have something that all 3 of them can do at the same time, but God, I just wish it was something else. It just looks so bunched up. But again, that's me. So they hit their triple flatliner, and Vroom takes the pin. 1, 2, 3. They've lost. So I expect them to get a title shot within a month or 2. Because what does the loss ever matter? The next segment is a promo for Kandy Krush versus Gabriella Cruz. Segment after that is the actual match. Kandy Krush with Top Tier coming out to take on Gabriella Cruz by herself. Campanelli has promo time and says that Krush has to win on her own without help / cheating. It's an interesting concept by the leader of Top Tier. I would have thought that would have been aimed more at Gloria Glitter, but I assume we'll get there eventually. Campanelli goes and sits at the commentary table while the match is going on. Commentary guests deal happens way too much on this show, but at least here is justified. Opposed to somebody just randomly walking out of the back and like, hey, David, I'm going to sit down there and watch this match with you. Or I should be managing, but I'm going to sit over here and watch with you anyway. Here, I can at least feel like, all right, it's justified. She's out with her, but she's not going to intervene, so I'm just going to watch. I'm going to watch from the commentating table. I could accept that. I wish it didn't happen all the time. But again, hey, when it's got its moments of this makes sense, give them the thumbs up when they have that. They bring up Crush and Cruz's backgrounds respectfully. Former boxer and black belt. I mean, I don't know if any of that had anything to do with the overall match just in general. But they do talk it up. It felt like they wanted to make that part of the narrative at least at some point. That's how it came across to me. Like, look at these athletic backgrounds they have. One's a black belt and the other one's a champion. Well, I don't know. They didn't say champion, but she's a boxer. But I don't know how either of those really kind of fit into this, and it didn't seem like they carried on about that long. So maybe it wasn't as big of an issue as it might have started out to be. The match is, pretty fine. I mean, this might have been one of the better. Well, I'm not going to say might have been. It certainly was the better of the two that we've had thus far. If I was going between the 6-person tag compared to this, I'm going with the Crush Cruz match. It just was a easier match to digest with less moments of stall. Kandy Krush at some point hits her heavy bag, aka the attitude adjustment. But here's the part that got me. Now you can go and you can watch the match to get all the good points, the back and forth and all that stuff like that. And they had a fair amount of those. At some point in this match, when Cruz has Crush down, this is towards the end, Cruz just gets up and starts yelling at Campanelli at the commentary booth for no reason. I was like, why? Because it doesn't come across like Campanelli was yelling at her or that she threw something or that she was otherwise distracting in any way. It just looked like, oh, so-and-so kicked out. Hey, yeah, I'm going to kick your ass too. Like she just decided to start yelling at her, which made her look stupid because that distraction was all Crush needed, of course, and she yanked out her foot. And because she was on the second turnbuckle at the time, Crush took advantage of that, yanked out her foot. She drops her on the mat, and following the top rope elbow, which the elbow looked great, she wins the match. There was a point where what did Trish used to call that thing? This wasn't the stratisfaction, the stratosphere. When she has her opponent on the seated on the ropes, but she'll do a handstand on the bottom rope and then kind of whip them over or try to do it like that. Cruz tried that at some point, and that was countered. That counter happened after the yelling at Campanelli for whatever reasons that she decided. I mean, it was just such a ridiculous spot. Like, why did you just up and decide that this is a good time for me to do this? Now, what happened in between that was this, I'll just call it for what I just named it, the stratosphere. What happened in between that, it wasn't that she just got yanked off and she stayed down. She tried to cut Crush off as Crush was going up to the top rope. Crush, as stated earlier, counters that, pushes her back. Cruz goes down, stays down, and then Kandy Krush, again, to her credit, it was a beautiful looking elbow. Comes off the top, bam, nails her, and it was 1, 2, 3. This is less of a complaint and more of a, checking the roster out from top to bottom. It's not that I didn't like the elbow. I will reiterate, the elbow looked great. I don't know if Crush should be using it with Laurie Carlson already establishing it essentially as a finish. Because if she's ever in singles matches, it's very likely that she's going to pull the trigger on just doing an elbow drop. They've already kind of laid groundwork for that with the Fab Jab. And if they're going to go forward with that, I would want to keep it kind of unique or special to her. Yes, we know that there's multiple people that can do it, but it's kind of like that same thing that and I was corrected on it because I thought that it was the Brat Pack and the Alliance that started first, but Pink is the, I guess, innovator within this environment of the second rope, posing on the back of them while they're, being draped and choked out. But then every heel started to do it. And I was like, every heel does not need to do her shtick. It should just be the one. It rather than, hey, there's the photo op, and hey, there's the album cover, and hey, Fury is rocking out on top of this person's back, and hey, is Penelope. That was like, off the top of my head, like 4 groups and people. It's too many. And I don't want it, the move that could be a finish to be roped into that, where it's just like, has no real oomph or value to it because it's done by multiple people. I did like the fact that she can break out a different hold / move in order to accomplish the win. That much I'm fully in favor of. But she's got like 3 of them already, I think. Well, she's got Superwoman Punch, Heavy Bag, TKO. Did they say a CTE? She's got like 3 or 4 of them. So despite the fact that she performed a phenomenal, elbow drop, I think I would almost want her to kind of throttle back on that and let the established user of that move have the move. Anyhow, after the match, and we can just go ahead and call it for what it was, Crush pretty much beat her clean. Campanelli comes in, has a second promo, and gets to put Crush over as having passed. And she also says that the matches will continue until she finds the weak link. Within the course of this match, there was also a point where Kandy Krush basically jumped out of the ring on her own. I know it was supposed to have been she's going to charge Penelope. Where did I get that from? Gabriella Cruz. She was supposed to charge her, and Cruz would pull down the rope and she would fly out. But it just did not look like she was even close to aiming at Gabriella Cruz. It just looked like, all right, I'm just running across so I can throw myself to the floor. Aside from that moment, the rest of it felt fine. It was just that little snapshot right there. Like, God damn it. Why did it have to have that? Because if it weren't there, it would have felt more like a tussle rather like a rehearsed deal. So, Crush passes. We still have to see who, was Glitter going to be dealing with next. She is the next in line since the rotation has started all over again. I don't know where this is going or how long this is going, why this is going. But at least they have something that they can do on their own time and terms rather than, fumble around with, we need the belts back. So we will keep our eyes open to what happens with Top Tier and what's next on the horizon. The next segment is a promo for the main event. This is Genesis versus Penelope Pink. This is prepping the upcoming match. The segment after that is the Genesis video package. I appreciate the video package, but let's just call it for what it is. Genesis' story has not changed in probably 3 years. It's been the same promo. It's been the same narrative. And it's just getting to the point where it's not amusing or entertaining anymore. At the very least, at the absolute least, change the stuff that she's saying. How many more fucking times can we hear? I've been overlooked, outcast, and exiled. How many more times can you hear that? And it doesn't mean anything. She's still there. Exiled from what? Her whole beef doesn't make sense. She wasn't even exiled out of the group that was called Exile. She got rid of them after fighting to be the leader. And then it's like, I've been there because I was like, okay, all right, you learned the word of the day and you just keep on doing it. It reminds me of a Kids in the Hall skit that was built around the idea, and I knew these people because back for whatever reasons, there were certain words that people would just overuse all the. And at that point in time, I remember talking about the bit. It's like, one of my friends would just use copacetic all the time. It's copacetic. Everything's copacetic. So they wrote a whole skit around somebody having to be told by the supervisor. It's like, look, everybody's out here is tired of your language. It's like, hey, man, I might curse everyone. It's like, no. It's not that. It's your use of the word ascertain. Because they set it up like every time that he said something, ascertain was in the sentence. Sir, I ascertained, but, I ascertained that it could be, it was like he wanted to have this one smart thing to say. Moving on, but the punchline of that was that it got him from doing it, but he found a new word to go and start overusing because the manager happened to say delineate. So I'm glad that we could delineate this problem. That you can see the light bulb go off in his eyes. But that's what exile that's what exile feels like out of Genesis, just like exile. I got to work this word in some kind of way. That's a great one. Yeah, it was great. 3 seasons ago. Shit, move on. Let's get enough. Or open up a fucking thesaurus and find a different word. Anything. It's repetitive, it's tired as old. And this is trying to make it come off like a competitor, but it makes it come off more like a whiner and it makes it come off like a complainer more than she probably actually is. The video starts off with, I don't get title shots. David McClain hands him out because I won't grovel and I won't beg. And then it proceeds to show video of her groveling and begging. Or the next best thing to it. What do you call it when you constantly get on the microphone? David, you didn't give me a match. I deserve a match. I've been overlooked and exiled. That sounds like begging and groveling to me. This cuts to the backstage with Pink and Star being interviewed by Sibley Scoles. And Pink cuts a promo on Genesis, and it's as good as you would expect. It is another heel versus heel thing. And I'm not really overly big on the heel versus heel match. However, I have stated the one saving grace that you have there is that the champion in some instances gets to be bigger than good and evil. Now, are they going to apply that to Penelope Pink? I don't know. It's not as if you're the champion and you're obligated to take on people that you dislike. You're just obligated to take on your challenger. And that could be, the whole deal there. And for, in her own words, Penelope Pink has more or less said that. I'll take on whoever. The best damn thing that Wild's ever seen. So it's never come across that she was overly concerned with it. And I like that. I just don't want her to be caught up in the rotation of heels that keep coming after. If she is a heel also, I would just minimize it. I'm not saying that I would get rid of it, but I would minimize it to a point that is not confusing to the average pair of eyes who and what she is. Unfortunately for them, fortunately for them, they did play the match to the point that I think that it would kind of translate that they both more or less exist in the same pocket. This goes into another wild spot, the one that I've already talked about. It's funny because I said they had a different version of this before that they aired once, and that different version had a lot less David McClain in it, but I haven't seen it since. Maybe they just like this one better. But they had a second version of it. I just haven't seen it after the day that it aired for whatever reasons. And then we got to the point where I dislike the fucking editing that WoW will do. I hate when they do this. The promo for next week. First off, they advertise a tag match with Miami Sweet Heat versus Ashley Blaze and Tara Strike that comes across as if Miami Sweet Heat are still the champions in that scenario. Now, if you watched it from start to finish, yes, you'll understand who the tag team champions are. But I fully believe, and I believe this as an editor, that the edit should be up to current, as close to current as you can get it. I cannot imagine that there's a reason for a show that's been taped months ago for them not to have footage of Blaze and Strike with the belts that could have been incorporated into this little segment. Because, again, average pair of eyes look at that and they're like, oh, okay, well, you would immediately assume that Miami Sweet Heat are the champions in this scenario. It's the visuals. I know that they may not look at that or care. But it's like the visual I say with Brooklyn Love and Full Throttle. It doesn't come across like she's part of the team just on sight. It comes across like she's in charge of the team. Doesn't come across here that Miami Sweet Heat isn't the tag team champions. It comes across like they are when it's Blaze and Strike. And then you also got the advertisement for Penelope Pink versus Santana Garrett for the Wild Championship, held by, according to this promo package, Penelope Pink. Which pretty much tells me that Penelope's going to win. This is not the first time that they've done this. And I had been praising the edit for a while now, for a good chunk of time. It felt like they had smoothed out all of those things and knocked off those errors. I can't remember the last time I said that they had just a mistake out of the sake of being a mistake. I can't think of it. But we know that it has happened. They've done it. And they've done it with this. It's like, what was that? The first one I remember was the wild card match, where you had the 5 competitors in there, but You didn't know the title was up for grabs. You didn't know who was going to win it until they put right before the match that, who was it, Abilene Maverick was going to defend the championship. I was like, well, you just ruined it. You just told me who was just going to win it. And that's what I felt here. Once I saw this, my interest in seeing Genesis versus Penelope Pink plummeted. Not because of the persons involved, because I knew at that point Genesis was going to slip on a banana peel and fail. And the entire narrative of this thing is, I didn't get a title shot. I need a title shot. I'm begging for the, shit. Begging and pleading and groveling until she got one, and then she loses. And it didn't even come as a shock to me because of this. And then the next thing I wrote out there was like, how's Garrett getting a title shot to begin with? At what point has she won anything? Like the last couple of times I remember her anywhere, she was laying on her back looking at the LED lights of the Fremont Experience. There's your plug. But, it's their show, man. It makes sense to them, apparently. It all makes sense to them. The next segment and the main event. Penelope Pink with Lana Star facing off against Genesis with Drucilla Blade for the Wild Championship. I think I said something to the effect of Genesis should walk into this with the decided advantage, just having a Drucilla Blade on her side. Well, that turned out not to be the case. She had one moment in there, but that was about it. But let me get back to the beginning of this, and then we'll work it down. Pink is introduced, and this sets up the introductions by Katie Marie. This starts with, after we get the big match intro, this starts with Pink doing the heel thing, backing off when Genesis attacks. Right? And then we get the reverse of that. Genesis returns the favor. She backs off, gets him to the ropes. Back her up, rough that. This is the point where I just stopped taking notes. I've been covering WoW for some time now. I don't know if I've ever just stopped and not got back to it. But after that open exchange, I was like, nah, I'll just watch it. I just didn't feel like taking notes anymore. I honestly really feel like that next week promo just took whatever little bit of excitement that I had and just yanked it away. But I did want to go back and look at it again, and so I don't have specific spots and things like that to talk about with it. Beyond to say these things. One, we've got the spot where Drucilla Blade got to run Lana Star off. That was when Pink drapes Genesis on the second ropes and Lana grabs the wrist and starts pulling it down. I really wish they would just put their hands behind the back of the neck and look like they're trying to choke them, opposed to just playing with their wrists like that. But, that's them. That's what they want to do, and I can't change that. But Drucilla Blade got to come over and kind of like menace her away. Past that point, she really didn't do anything. She stood out there and she looked angry, but that was about it. I'm still not enamored with Drucilla Blade, nor do I think that they've done anything well with it. It was like she was a pointless acquisition. She was brought in to be the backup. In some cases, you might call it the muscle, but It didn't help when it counted. And in the matches that she's had, she's lost. So I'm not seeing where Genesis feels the value is in having her around. And now that I say that out loud, it's like, some of the heels there, I don't know if they carry any value in who they keep around them. Maybe Campanella's the only one that gives a shit. It's like, I'm going to find a weak link and do something about it. Vroom and Genesis and what's Gambino, like all of them just like, yeah, we're the greatest, and then constantly go out there and get their brains beat out week in and week out. But anyhow, that's not the point. Getting towards the end of the match, and I remember the match as being fine. I didn't have any issues with how they came across and what they did and when they did it. But I also expect that, and I don't want to put the full brunt of whether the match is good or bad in Penelope Pink's lap, but I expect that out of her. That she is somebody I expect to deliver good matches. I have since she's been at, I think since season 1, the later portion of season 1, when I got to see her a little bit more often, I started to expect her to have better matches, better promos than the average Wild Girl. And there's a couple of them that fall into that category. It's like the same thing I feel about the Brat Pack. I love them as a tag team. I think that they work very well. They position themselves well. They got timing, all of that stuff. They just, unlike Pink, they just do not get the benefit of winning. But I won't go down that rabbit hole at this point. I just need to, vent that as I thought of it. But the end of this match, you got a reversal that put Genesis in control where she could drop Penelope Pink with that full Nelson slam. Once she hits that, now she's going for the finish. Or now she's going for the pin. That was her finish. But Lana Starr is doing what Lana Starr is supposed to do. She stops it. Now, if there's anything that you might be able to say about what, I guess went wrong or potentially wrong here, is that Pink wasn't close enough to the ropes to really get it over like she should have or could have or whatever. Genesis hit her with a great full Nelson slam. But like I said, Lana Starr was already there, and she did what she had to and got her foot up on the ropes so that Penelope Pink would have an out. Genesis then starts complaining like, "What? No, I had it won. This is mine. I won the championship." But at that point, I was like, "Now, isn't that what Drucilla Blade is being paid to do, or she's your friend? Why does she just stand there and look across the ring as this was happening?" I was like, you would think that she would at least run around the side to run Lana Starr away. She didn't even do that. She just kind of stood there. And if ever there was a time that you should be menacing and making sure that somebody's not intervening, it would be that. It would be right then, right there. That didn't happen. So I don't see where her value is as a second. So Genesis tries to reinstitute control of the match, but Pink gets out of it and turns it back over to a finish. I think it's what the Nightmare in Pink or something like that. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Genesis loses. And all the whining and all the complaining and all the, I deserve a shot, I should get a shot, I've been overlooked, et cetera, goes down the drain until the next time that she says that, well, I deserve a title shot. So she loses. And she's taken out. Well, I mean, I don't mean like taken out on the stretcher. I mean, she's walked out of the location essentially looking in the ring, crying about, oh, the belt is mine. No. I just really hope that this can move on now. I was almost pulling for Genesis just because I was like, I just want this thing to end. But the problem that I feel like is going to happen is that she lost, and they're just going to recycle it for a 5th or 6th time that I've been exiled. It's not fair. I didn't get a shot. It is really close to just like give her the belt already so we can get out of this. I doubt it's going to make any difference to the ratings one way or the other. I know they try to pass this off like we're going to put this down for sweep because this is the match that the world's been waiting for. Genesis, this heel who you were supposed to boo all season, taking on Penelope Pink, this heel who you were supposed to boo all season. That'll get him in. So we finally got the answer to the question. Like, how many times is she just going to be set up for failure? It was, what was the first one? It was, the Class Master. I never got a shot. All right, well, we'll give you an opportunity at a shot. If you beat us, then you'll get a title shot. Then she just lost it. Then it was, I didn't get a shot. All right, well, we're going to put you in this battle royal with everybody. It's equal time. You only got the same chance. Lost that. I didn't get a shot. Well, you got a 4-way now. You can try that one and see if that'll get you there. That didn't work. I didn't get a shot. And now you got the actual title shot. You still lost. How many more different ways are we going to try this? I really, really, really think it's time to move that story along. Give her something else to do and be finished with this. And that was the episode, folks. I mean, again, I don't want to devalue the title match. But walking into... It's one thing for me to guess that, well, I think Penelope Pink might win. It's one thing for me to do that. But for me to get the confirmation 2 minutes before the match even starts, I'm like, okay. So whatever little feelings or anticipation, whatever moments that I might have had, watching that match at that time, it just went away. I mean, I think I was just very, very disappointed that they've returned to doing that. I hadn't seen it in a while, and it literally just was not the right turn of phrase there. It wasn't literal, but it just felt like the carpet was yanked out from underneath me. Like, oh, come on. Seriously? Like that. So anyhow, aside from what they advertise, what is given to be their next week's episode? Well, we got the press release. And it hasn't aired yet as I am recording, so let's see what it is that they're going to do. The next episode that they've got is titled Golden Opportunity. That is going to be season 4, episode 35, 435 for those of you that are keeping count. And it's listed as follows. Now that the numbers are even, the score can finally be settled as Dr. Pandemonium, Miranda the Mindful, and Nova Sky, accompanied by the Classmaster and the IQ Superior Samantha Smart, face off against Scout Parker and the Mighty Mites, Sugar and Spice in trios action. Meanwhile, Gloria Glitter steps into the spotlight to prove her worth against the Bully Buster, Keita Rush. And in the main event, it's a fatal 4-way match with the golden opportunity on the line. The Colombian GOAT and reality sensation Paola Mayfield with Abilene Maverick by her side. Reina Del Rey with Ariana Gambino as her manager and former Wild champions Tormenta and Santana Garrett all collide in the purple ring for their shot at the Wild World Championship match. With 4 fierce competitors and 1 coveted prize, who will win the golden opportunity? Well, God damn it. I think they might have just spoiled another one for me. Shit. Okay, well, I mean, given that they advertised Penelope Pink versus Santana Garrett, I'm going to assume Santana Garrett somehow is successful here. Why is this match happening anyway? I mean, it was a perfect setup for a tag team match. It wasn't like they all came out there and just got into a brawl with each other. Del Rey and Gambino came out, and Mayfield and Maverick helped her beat up on Tormenta, and then Santana Garrett came out there to save Tormenta. That felt like the perfect makings of, hey, I'll tag with you, and they'll tag up, and let's take them on. Not let's all just fight. Where's this coming from? Okay, man, that just really comes off as weird. And maybe weird is strong, but why? That seems like just an odd setup to go into this 4-way. I mean, not impossible. It just, I don't know. Maybe they'll fill in the blanks during the episode. I did say that after Pandemonium and Scout Parker wrestled, it felt like that they were setting up for trios, or I call it a 6-persons match. Afterwards, when the mics came out and whatnot, and lo and behold, here we are. That one actually transitioned over and made sense. We've got our trios match being prepared to take place. I have no reason to believe that. Why was I going to say the Alliance? The Enlightened. I have no reason to believe that the Enlightened are going to be successful, because Santana Garrett is not in this match, and that seems to be the only person that they can beat up and bully. So I don't know how they would do it, because now I'm thinking about it, all of them are pretty tiny. And I love Scout and I love the Mites, but they all are fairly tiny. But the Enlightened as a team have sucked. And that's an interesting one. Let's stick with the baby faces there. And then you got Glitter, and I guess Keita Rush came back from the Rush Cave, or I don't know, where she spends her superhero time off. She just pops up every once in a while. So back from the Fortress of Solitude comes Keita Rush. And Glitter, and I don't know. Because this is another week of them doing this thing. I want to say Glitter. But what kind of sense does it make to have Keita Rush come back every 6 months and ever lose? Although it wouldn't surprise me, let's just go with Glitter with that one. Let's go with Glitter. Maybe that'll, they'll find some way to rope it into whatever angles that they're doing. So there we have it. That seems to be where we're going with these matches. I mean, in much the same way that I said about the Mites and Scout, and in their individual match, there are persons that are in the 4-way at the end that I like. Well, actually, probably 3 out of the 4. that I believe in as far as wrestlers are concerned. I don't know. Well, I mean, look, we know as much as I like Del Rey, we know that ain't happening. They are just not going to give her a shot at that belt. Well, she's not going to win it. You know, doesn't seem like that's in the cards. Tormenta just had it. Mayfield just beat Tormenta. I do think they would do something stupid like put it on her. But I do not think that Paola Mayfield is the champion that place needs at this point. I don't know if her reality TV stardom, they seem very fixated on that. But I don't know if her reality TV stardom has translated into big numbers for WoW or, you know, their viewership overall. But I cannot imagine her being able to hold the championship scene together on her own. She just has not come across as that polished a wrestler to do that. So I stick with the original choice. Especially given that they gave you the damn promo. Say that Santana Garrett's going against Penelope Pink, but you never know how they might try to twist and turn in the matches to get there. So we'll see. All right, that was that. We have covered that episode. It was pretty basic, not a lot of story that was going in there. It was a conclusion, fingers crossed, of a Genesis storyline, and maybe that'll transition over to something else. We got to see the full throttle attempt of another win. But aside from the promo beforehand, it was, you know, basically a cold match. Crush and Cruz, fine match, enjoyable to watch. That'd probably be the only other thing that had some sort of narrative walking into it. So, like I said, pretty, and this is not in bad terms, pretty basic episode. I had to make sure I put that disclaimer out there before somebody like he called us basic. No, I'm just saying it was a nice episode, wasn't overly complicated, easy to sit through. Did not like that they had spoilers in it, but other than that, well, I guess it's all right. So now that we've done that, we did our summary, we got the press release done. I think we have, let me dust my hands off. I think we've done a fair job here. So that being said, you know, if you are listening to this or checking this out on YouTube, do the YouTube things, like, share, subscribe. You can also catch us on greater podcast platforms everywhere. If you don't know where to go beyond that, WPNWrestling.com is the centerpiece. Nexus is the focal point of all those things. You got a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week video stream there. You scroll down a little further, you got the podcast widget that has every podcast that I have produced. More so than that, and more importantly than that for this audience, is every episode of WoW for the last 4 years in review. You know, no, that's not true. There was a point that I missed like 10 episodes. I just kind of stopped watching. But that was way in the beginning, right before episode 25 was the one that brought me back. That was the one I hated, that episode. It just sucked. So there's that. You got a lot of choice to go through and scan and see what my opinions were then and what they are now. And I think that will give a lot of insight to my thoughts of WoW. They have not changed all that much. Most of it is pretty much the same, because most of the things they do are pretty much the same. Yeah, well, maybe one day, somebody will push them to do better. Maybe that'll happen. I doubt it, but maybe. That being said, we've reached the end of this road, folks. Thank you again for your time and your ears. Always a pleasure. And I hope to get back again after this next episode so we can do it one more time. Until then, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.